Hello everybody. Here's what we're going to do today. Got a bike in the background. It's in either an R1 or my buddy on his Tuono V4. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a sprocket swap. One thing that I found on the track was that 6 gear on this thing is just insanely high. They've got it geared. If you go to Gearing Commander's website and you punch in the gearing for this, top speed is 167 miles an hour, which is never going to happen. Doesn't have the horsepower to get up there to that kind of speed. So what we're going to do is do a little sprocket swap. It's already got a 16 tooth or 15 tooth on the front. I don't want to go any smaller than that. So what we've got should be a 1543. So let me just make sure and double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. Good, we got the right teeth. I was like, shit, did I order the wrong sprockets? So we got a 1543. Stock is a 1542. So that's going to lower my gearing across the board. And it's going to bring 6 gear down a bit as well to make maybe that a little bit more usable. What I found on the track was that when I would get up to 125, 130, almost 128 miles an hour, somewhere in there in 5th. I'd be topped out hitting 10,000 RPMs in 5th. I'd switch to 6th and would go from 10,000 RPMs to 8, and it would just stop pulling. And it's not a top speed restrictor. We did have that removed with the ECU flash. I double checked that. It's just it's geared too tall. This is not a 170 mile an hour motorcycle. It never will be. You'd have to add a turbo or something to get it up there. It just doesn't make that kind of power to push through the wind. So it's hitting an aerodynamic wall. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to basically go through what we got to do real quick to change this. And I'll throw the camera over there on a stand and I'll speed that up. You can watch it in fast motion. But we're going to need to take off the rear wheel because we need to install these 2 sprockets. And I did a 520 conversion at the same time. So we're going to go to a new chain as well. My goal here is this sprocket is 3 teeth taller than that, which is the same as going down one in the front. I didn't want to go to a 14 tooth sprocket because it makes that turn too tight, and then you're going to start having chain premature wear and rubbing on the swing arm and stuff. So we're going to go up 3 in the back, which is about the same as going down 1 tooth in the front. Should give it a little more acceleration in every gear. We'll go for a little test ride later. What I got to do is I got to remove the wheel. I'm going to have to take that off. You may have a cotter pin. I went ahead and did the safety wire with the clip. So we're going to take that off. We're going to have to cut that chain. You're going to need a chain cutting tool, and I use an impact wrench, makes it a little bit easier. We're going to have to take off this cover, which is a bunch of 8mm bolts, and then there's going to be the nut for the front sprocket. I don't know what size that is. I'll have to get out the socket for that. So everything else is going to be pretty much self-explanatory. We need to get the back wheel off. We're going to cut the chain. Actually, I'm probably going to take this off first because I want to have the wheel here so that when I hit that nut, it doesn't just spin the countershaft sprocket. I want it to kind of hold it in place, and if I have to, I'll put the back brake on or put a breaker bar through here so that it rests on that and can't let the wheel turn. Those are some of the tricks. Kawasaki is notorious for doing crap like that. They just over torque that, even though it's got like a retaining clip and stuff. It's just not necessary. So I'm going to start up here. We're going to remove that, loosen that front sprocket, get that bolt off. Then we're going to take off, we're going to cut the chain. We're not going to remove the chain because I'm going to use this chain to pull the new one through, so I have to sit here and fiddle it through. And before I put that chain on, I'm actually going to wipe it down with some brake cleaner and a rag so it doesn't just fling grease all over the bike. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Do a sprocket swap, and then we'll go for a ride. So I'm going to set this over here. And I'm going to assume that that's capturing everything that I need to. I guess I won't find out till later. Let's see what that looks like. All right, got that all buttoned up, got the gold chain on. Everybody knows that's the fastest chain. So I've got the tension a little tighter than I would normally have because I know it's going to stretch a little bit initially. So when I go out for a ride later, I was able to do this over my lunch break, but I got some meetings coming up. So sometime later this afternoon after work, I'll be able to go out for a spin. We'll throw the camera on there, see what the acceleration's like, how much it wheelies and stuff like that, see how I like it. I did move the wheel back slightly. I could have moved the wheel forward and cut it short, 2 lengths off the chain. Being that it's going to have a lot more torque and drive, the motor doesn't make more torque. The mechanical advantage you're gaining is going to give the result of having more torque. You're going to have more acceleration. I didn't want to just convert that to wheelies and having the traction control cutting in more. Now you can turn the traction control off. But all right, so we're back and we're done. I've installed the gold chain because everybody knows that's the fastest chain. I could have cut the, you may have saw me adjusting the chain backwards. That's because I wanted to increase the wheelbase slightly. They say, oh, it'll compromise the handle. Unless you're Rossi, you're not going to notice the wheelbase a couple millimeters longer, especially on a bike like this. What that does do is because I'm going to have that increased acceleration, first gear was already a wheelie monster as it was. Traction control constantly cutting in. My guess is it's going to start doing that in second. I would rather have the slightly longer wheelbase to help keep the front end down. I want to take the increase in power that I'm applying to the wheel. I haven't changed horsepower or torque at the motor, but I do have more mechanical advantage now. I mean, the motor is able to exert more leverage on that back wheel to accelerate faster. I would rather have that increase in power converted into forward motion than just wheelies. Wheelies slow you down. Yeah, everyone thinks they look cool. I'm not a big fan of them because, you know, it's a quick way to get a reckless driving charge. You could be going 8 miles an hour and the cop sees you doing a wheelie and busted. But also, it slows you down because either you're having to back off the throttle if you're trying to accelerate fast and it's wheeling under its own power. You're not trying to wheelie. You have to either modulate that or let the traction control do it. Either way, you're converting all that power into lifting the bike up rather than propelling it forward. I would rather have it propelled forward. So I'll splice these all together and speed up some of the stuff later so you don't have to actually watch me doing this for half an hour. But I was able to get this done in my lunch hour. I got a meeting coming up I need to jump into. But after work, I'll mount the camera up to the bike and we'll go out for a ride and see how it runs, see how it wheelies. Again, not to see that it does wheelie, I know it will. I just want to see, that'll be a good way to gauge how much of an increase in acceleration there is. It really never lifts the wheel in second unless you're going over a rise. If it starts picking it up in second, that's a noticeable gain in acceleration. So we'll play around with it, we'll give a review, and you'll get to watch this all together, spliced together, and see if I can make it look halfway decent. But anyway, check back in. We'll see you shortly. we're gonna do a take two, see if I can get through without somebody walking up and asking me questions or dogs going insane. It's really hard to do a YouTube channel if you don't have a studio, because there's always somebody that walks up and just stumbles on the camera. Oh, you filming something? Yeah, get out. Anyway, so what have we done? So we did the sprocket change, went out for a ride. You saw some little acceleration videos. It made it nicer. I see a lot of people in the forum saying, oh, you got to gear it up, got to smooth it out. You know, it's not smooth. The power delivery's jerky. I'm sorry, I don't see it. I never have on this bike. I think there's a lot of people that ride this bike and maybe they're not used to, you know, maybe they're used to slower bikes, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying not to offend people because I have a habit of doing that just by being honest, because it's hard to... Bikers are not known for having small egos. Let's just say that. This bike was intended, I think, a lot primarily for two major groups. Hipsters, because the whole retro thing, what's old is new, is very popular right now. And so I think hipsters wanting the cafe racers and stuff, that's one of the target demographics for this bike, and it is appealing to them. And it's not a knock; it just is what it is. There's buyers out there for that, so they designed the bike around that. And also older riders, maybe boomers, maybe people that this was the bike they had as a kid, or their dad had it when they were a kid, and maybe they're used to riding bikes like this. Maybe they've been riding bikes like that. And so, you know, but now they're getting older. They still want to ride, but now they're going back to something from their childhood. There's a big nostalgia factor. Well, when you think about nostalgia, who's that going to appeal to? Someone of that era, right? And so if you were of a riding age in 1972 when that came out, chances are you're a boomer, or pretty close to it. So I'm neither hipster, I'm not hip at all, and I'm certainly not a boomer. My parents are, but I'm not. But I just think it's a great bike. Now, that being said, I still ride this. I still ride that. I may get a Gixxer 1000 next year for track days. I'm still into the sport bikes at 49, but I appreciate this for what it is, and I love it. It's a fantastic bike. When I come out here in the garage, and you know, there's plenty of bikes here to choose from, more often than not, I'm grabbing the keys for that, more than anything here. So it's a cool bike, but it did have some shortcomings. Tires sucked. Front suspension was too soft and squishy. We got that sorted. The shock, crap. Got that sorted. Running pilot powers, they feel great. Did the ECU flash, cat delete, and some other stuff. So it's been good. And the one thing that was, I think, holding it back for me is gearing. Now, a lot of people say, oh, they want to go to a 16-tooth front sprocket. They want to raise the gearing. I don't want to raise the gearing. I don't want to dial this bike down. I want to dial it up. Personally, I don't need a bike to be super smooth and gentle and tame. I want it to be a little more naughty, dare I say. I want it to be a little more hairy-chested, a little more brutish. That to me is part of the engagement. It's part of the fun. It forces you to, it's constantly grabbing your attention. You got to pay attention. It's a little more thrilling. It's just more involved and engrossing than something that's just buttery smooth and electric. There's a place for that if you're touring and stuff like that. But on the street, I want a bit of a hooligan bike. And the bike always felt a little dulled by the tall gearing. That gearing we mentioned before, it's geared to go 167 miles an hour. It doesn't have the horsepower to do that. So having a bike geared that tall, when you won't get within 30 miles an hour of that, is just completely wasted. I would rather shorten the gearing, which means I'm going to run a little higher RPMs and I'm going to shift a little more often, but I'm always going to have that snap. It's going to increase that lunge. When I hit the gas, it's going to want to go that little bit more. And so I don't mind that. I don't mind losing 5 miles per hour on my shift points if sixth gear now becomes a usable gear. When I want to pass a truck on the interstate, I don't have to drop a gear to get some good drive. It's picked up a bit. So it's not radical. It's not like going up one tooth in the front and down one in the front and up two in the back. But going up three in the back is a significant change. You feel that. You definitely feel it. And my traction control's kicking in a lot in second gear because it's trying to lift the front up. So I think this was a good change. It made it more direct. It just made it that little bit snappier, a little more angry, which is perfect because as I was riding along, one of the songs that came in on my speakers in the helmet through my Cena was Public Image Limited. I was listening to John Lydon and Johnny Rotten, you may know him as, and the song Rise. And one of the lyrics in there was anger is an energy. And as I'm sitting here thinking about that, it was like, yes, anger is an energy. And that bike feels a little more angry. And that's what I like. I don't want a gentleman's bike that's smooth and tamed and dulled and feels like it's being, you know, I don't want it to be dulled. I want it to be that hooligan. Remember, by today's standards, this is a pussycat. This thing, even being just a little 636, rapes it on the track. You get up to an R1, you get to a Tuono, an RSV, any of the leader bikes, they make that look the way that makes a Ninja 250 look. The performance delta between this and what is out today is staggering. That doesn't mean this is any less, that it's a crap bike or it's not fast or it's not fun or you can't get into serious trouble with it. You absolutely can. But what it does mean is that back in the day, this was the Panigale V4. This was the R1M back in the day. And so I feel the way it came out of the box looked the part, didn't really feel the part. It felt good, but the improvements to the suspension, the tires, the tuning, and especially the gearing change gave it that sort of snarly, nasty, just that little bit of extra, like instead of giving it gas and thinking, I want you to go, you give it gas and it's like, all right, let's go. I think gearing down is the key to this. If you want super smoothness and you want, you know, you're just touring on it, then leave it. It's not a knock to say that, you know, you're an older rider or you're someone who came from an SV650. And so to you, this is a step up. It doesn't, it's, again, it's hard to talk in these terms because bikers have egos and that we wear our hearts on our sleeves. And so it's very easy to get someone's nose out of joint. Ask me how I know. But I'm just trying to be realistic here. It's a very potent bike for what it is, but I think making it better with the gearing changes and the exhaust and tuning. And I may go and do the headers and retune it and pick up another 8 to 10 horsepower. And at that point, if I can get this up to like 115 horsepower with that gearing, this thing's going to be a freaking riot. So it was a good change. I'm liking the changes here. I'm liking the gearing and stuff, and I would recommend that if you're feeling like 6 is just not got enough punch, and even through it feels like it struggles, it wheezes a little, it's just not, get your ECU flash, get your exhaust and stuff sorted, do the suspension, and the easiest, you know, pound for the performance upgrade is a damn Sprocket Swap. $198 shipped to my house. New gold chain rated for 1200cc motors. Super light. It is steel, but it's a super light sprocket. It's steel, so it's not going to wear out like the aluminum ones do. And then you got your 15-tooth steel front sprocket. $200. That is an instant acceleration, and what you feel and interpret as torque. It's an instant upgrade. The only downside to it is, even though as much as I clean that chain off, I got crap all over, you know, so you get the grease. That's why I wiped it down with a rag soaked with brake cleaner. Don't spray and blast brake cleaner into the chain, because you don't want to get down into and take away any of the grease that's inside the O-rings or the X-rings, but wiping brake cleaner on the outside to get some of the crap on the outside, because that's not lubricating anything. That's just going to fling all over your bike and tire. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, recheck the tension, and hope you enjoyed the video. It's a worthwhile upgrade. I know a lot of people say to go the other direction and gear it up. I don't want to tame it. I want to unleash the inner beast a little bit, and you're going to do that through things like tuning and exhaust, but gearing changes is a no-brainer. It's the biggest bang for the buck performance increase you can do for that felt response, that acceleration, that little bit of naughtiness. $200 does it. Or if you don't want to do the 520 conversion, keep the stock chain and just experiment with the sprockets. Just realize with the existing chain, it's already cut, it's already riveted. You're going to be limited on your adjustment as far as how many teeth you can go up or down. But those are options as well. I mean, normally on a bike, if it came with the 16 tooth, I'd just do the front tooth down one, move the wheel back a little bit to take up that slack and lengthen that to help keep the front end down. And that, you know, for $35, you got an instant performance upgrade. I had to do it on the back one because it's already got 15 on the front, but I figured if I'm going to do it anyway, I already got 6,000 miles on the bike, might as well just change the sprocket and chain and all that. So anyway, I'm getting long-winded, probably repeating myself. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good one, folks.